What happens when the owner of a 13-store pizza chain goes undercover? And here's one of his managers threaten to fire a worker just for asking a question. Wesley Noland leaned back in his office chair, staring at the quarterly feedback reports. Store 12 had the worst customer satisfaction scores for the third straight quarter: late orders, rude service, high turnover. But the district manager just kept giving him the same excuse. It's a tough neighborhood. Wesley didn't buy it. He inherited the pizza chain from his father 6 years ago. The business had grown fast, mostly because Wesley had invested in better ingredients, faster ovens, and a strong brand. But he hadn't set foot in most of the stores in over 2 years, not since COVID. Wesley rubbed his eyes. "I'm done hearing secondhand stories," he muttered. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Line me up as a trainee at Store 12 starting Monday. New name, new look. Make sure no one there knows who I am." His team was good. By Monday, Wesley had a crew cut, thick glasses, and a fake name, Ryan. The regional hiring office had set up everything. Since none of the Store 12 team had ever met the CEO in person, and the chain had over 200 employees across 13 locations, no one thought twice. Store 12 sat on a busy street near a faded strip mall. Inside, the air smelled like burnt cheese and bleach. The floors were sticky. The manager, a wiry man in his late 40s named Greg, barely glanced up when Wesley walked in. "You the new guy? Whatever. Grab an apron, you'll follow Lewis today." Lewis, a slim kid in his 20s with tired eyes and a kind smile, showed Wesley how to prep dough and fold boxes. "We're down 2 people today," Lewis said quietly. "One called out, the other quit last week." "Why'd they quit?" Wesley asked. Lewis hesitated. "Honestly, Greg, he's unpredictable." Wesley didn't press. He wanted to see it all for himself. By Wednesday, he had. Greg barked at the crew constantly, never helped out, and disappeared for hours at a time. He yelled at customers when orders were late, blaming the workers. But what really caught Wesley's attention was how the rest of the crew acted around him: nervous, drained, quiet. On Thursday night, Wesley was mopping up near closing when he heard raised voices in the back. He leaned toward the kitchen. "I just asked if I could switch shifts with Carla next week, Greg. My son's got a school play." "You don't tell me your schedule, Jesse," Greg snapped. "I tell you, if you don't like it, you can clean out your locker tonight." Wesley froze. Jessie, a cashier in her mid-30s, looked stunned. Her hands were shaking. "Greg, I wasn't trying to cause trouble. You want to keep this job or not?" Lewis looked up from the sink, his jaw tight. Wesley stepped forward before he could stop himself. "I can take her shift," Wesley said quickly. "I'm off Monday anyway." Greg turned. "No one asked you, newbie. Stay in your lane." Lewis stepped between Greg and Jessie. "She's one of the hardest workers here. Come on, Greg, that's not fair." Greg's voice dropped, low and sharp. "Say one more thing, Lewis. Say one more thing and you'll be out that door with her." Lewis didn't say anything. No one moved. Wesley's stomach turned, his heart pounded. He kept his face straight, but inside he was boiling. He drove home in silence that night, sat at his kitchen table, and stared at the wall. He'd seen enough. He couldn't sit back anymore. Tomorrow he wasn't just Ryan. He was the CEO, and Greg was about to find that out the hard way. Wesley sat in his car outside Store 12 the next morning, gripping the steering wheel. The early sun hadn't yet burned through the haze settled over the storefront windows. He hadn't slept much, and the weight of what he'd seen pressed against his chest like a stone. He hadn't made a formal plan, but he didn't need one. He was the owner. He'd seen enough. Inside, the store was already alive with the usual rhythm of a Saturday shift. Dough slapping the counter, the whir of the oven fans. A delivery driver was restocking bottled drinks in the cooler by the register. Wesley stepped in, the bell above the door jangling, and moved straight toward the prep area. Greg was leaning against the counter, sipping from a disposable coffee cup. He didn't glance up. "Where's Jessie?" Wesley asked quietly, his voice even. Greg looked over his cup. "Didn't show, guess she made her choice." Lewis, wiping down the prep table, froze mid-motion. His eyes flicked briefly to Wesley. Wesley kept his posture relaxed. "Let's talk, office, now." Greg raised an eyebrow but didn't move. "I've got orders to manage." "No," Wesley said, walking past him toward the back hallway. "You don't." The office was small and cluttered. A 2-drawer filing cabinet jammed against the wall, receipts spilling from an inbox. Greg followed reluctantly and shut the door behind him. Wesley turned to face him. "I'm not Ryan. My name is Wesley Noland. I own this company." Greg blinked, then let out a half laugh. "Cute." Wesley stepped forward, eyes locked. "You don't recognize me. That's fine. But you're going to take me seriously right now." Greg's expression shifted. His mouth opened, but no sound came. "I've been here all week," Wesley continued. "I've seen how you run this store. You don't train your staff. You don't clean. You don't help during rushes. You threaten employees when they ask for basic accommodations. And you've created an environment where people are too scared to speak." Greg's jaw tensed. "This isn't some cozy suburban store. You have no idea what it's like to run this location." "Then explain it," Wesley said. "Tell me what justifies threatening to fire a single parent for asking to see her kids play. Tell me why you disappear during peak hours. Tell me why customers leave 1-star reviews saying your cashiers are rude when they're just following your lead." Greg's voice rose. "You can't expect this place to run like the others. We deal with different problems here. I do what I have to do to keep it from falling apart." "No," Wesley said, voice firm. "You do what's easiest for you. You don't lead, you intimidate, and it ends today." Greg stepped back, scoffing. "What, you're going to fire me now? Because I got someone to show up for their shifts?" Wesley didn't blink. "You're done here. Get your things. You're no longer employed by this company." For a second, Greg didn't move. Then he laughed under his breath and turned to the desk, muttering something under his breath as he grabbed his keys and a folder. He shoved past Wesley on the way out. Wesley watched him go, then stepped out into the kitchen. The crew had gone quiet. Lewis was by the oven, glancing over with barely disguised tension. "He's gone," Wesley said, "effective immediately." No one spoke at first. Then Lewis nodded slowly, and one of the drivers, a tall woman named Shanna, let out a quiet breath. Wesley looked around. "I need your help. I'm not here to take over your jobs, but I'm not leaving until we fix this." Shanna crossed her arms. "That's nice to hear, but we're still short-staffed. We've been covering 3 positions for 2 weeks." Wesley nodded. "Let's start there. Who's your best candidate for shift lead?" Lewis hesitated. "Honestly, Carla. She's been here 3 years, knows the register, kitchen, deliveries. Everyone respects her." "Is she on today?" "She's in at noon." "Good. I'll offer her acting manager while we work out a permanent solution. In the meantime, I'll clean, run deliveries, whatever needs doing." Shanna raised an eyebrow. "You serious?" "I'm not wearing this apron for show." For the next 3 hours, Wesley worked nonstop. He boxed orders, ran slices to customers, and cleaned the walk-in cooler, which hadn't been organized in weeks. It didn't take long to see how much smoother things ran without Greg dragging everyone down. Lewis stepped up naturally, fielding questions and checking on team members with quiet confidence. When Carla walked in just before noon, Wesley pulled her aside. "I want to be transparent," he said. "I'm the owner. I've been here undercover this week. I watched how you handled the Friday night rush, how you stepped in when the register froze, how you helped Lewis with that catering order. I'd like you to take over as acting store manager." Carla blinked. "Wait, you're the owner?" Wesley nodded. "I am." She looked toward the rest of the team. You're serious? I wouldn't offer it if I wasn't. You'll have support. Better scheduling, proper staffing, and a direct line to me or our regional director. But I need someone who already has this team's trust. Carla glanced at Shanna, who gave a small nod, then at Lewis, who mouthed, yes. Carla turned back, then I'm in. That afternoon, they held a short team meeting. Wesley outlined the changes. Carla as acting manager, weekly check-ins with corporate, immediate hiring for at least 3 roles, and an open-door policy with HR. He didn't sugarcoat the past. Instead, he acknowledged it and promised better. Later, as the dinner rush settled, Jessie walked through the door holding a pizza bag. Wesley stepped out from behind the register. I was hoping you'd come back. Jessie looked uncertain. Lewis said maybe I should stop by. You were treated unfairly. I want to offer you your job back with a raise, and I'd like to personally apologize. Jessie hesitated, then looked around. The energy had shifted. Even the lighting felt warmer. Who's in charge now? Carla. Jessie nodded slowly. Then I'll stay. Wesley smiled. Good, we'll make this place right. As the shift wound down, Wesley stepped outside for a moment. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the lot. He pulled out his phone and called his regional director. Store 12 has potential, he said, but we've been blind to what's happening at the front lines. I'm going to spend the next 3 weeks visiting every location. In person, no more distance. We're not going to lead from spreadsheets anymore. He ended the call and looked back through the glass. Inside, Carla was laughing at something Lewis said while Jessie restocked the soda fridge. The tension that had hung over the store like storm clouds was gone. Wesley took a deep breath. This was just one store. But it was also a start. By Monday morning, word had spread. Wesley stood in the back corner of Store 12, clipboard in hand, reviewing the weekend's labor numbers. Carla had done well, kept overtime controlled, managed the Friday rush with only 1 delivery delay, and documented every schedule change. Lewis had picked up 2 extra shifts without being asked, and the team's energy had shifted from cautious to quietly hopeful. Still, the store wasn't out of the woods. They were running lean. The hiring process had started, but onboarding would take time. In the meantime, Wesley stayed on the floor. At 10:45, he walked past the prep table where Carla was cutting labels for the new allergen warning system. Got a minute? He asked. She brushed flour from her hands. Sure. I've been reviewing the customer feedback from last week. A few complaints about the phone not being answered during peak hours. That was Thursday night, Carla said. We had 1 person on register, 1 on oven, and 2 drivers stuck in traffic. I had to choose between answering calls or making the pizzas. I get it. I don't expect perfection overnight, but I want you to feel comfortable flagging those issues up the chain. You're not going to get penalized for being honest. Carla nodded, but her eyes held something unsaid. Wesley caught it. What? She looked toward the walk-in cooler, where the new part-timer, Jadon, was reorganizing the drink shelves. You're going to find something similar at Store 14. My cousin worked there for 8 months. Quit last week. Said the manager keeps throwing out applications if the person doesn't look professional enough. Wesley frowned. What does that mean? Carla hesitated. He's got a shaved head and a sleeve tattoo. Manager told him customers don't feel comfortable with guys who look like that. He was never late, never missed a shift. Who's the manager there? Name's Dana, mid-30s, runs a tight ship, but Carla trailed off. I'll pay them a visit, Wesley said, already forming the plan. By Wednesday, Wesley was standing in the lobby of Store 14. The difference was immediate. The place looked spotless but sterile. No music. Staff moved quickly, but no one spoke. A young woman at the register greeted him with a clipped name for the order. Ryan, he said, sticking with the alias. He ordered a medium pepperoni and took a seat near the side wall, eyes scanning the operation. The manager, Dana, stood near the back, arms crossed, watching the crew like a hawk. She wasn't helping, just observing, correcting, occasionally snapping her fingers at a worker who moved too slowly. She corrected one employee's hat angle, sent another to the back to fix your posture. When the pizza came out, Wesley stood and walked to the counter. This is underdone. The cashier looked startled, then glanced at Dana. Dana strode forward. Problem. Center's doughy, Wesley said. Dana picked up the box, raised her eyebrows, and set it down. That's within spec. I'd like a new one. Dana didn't move. You're welcome to eat somewhere else. Wesley met her eyes. Are you the manager? I am. Then we need to talk. She frowned, then motioned toward the hallway. Office. Once behind the door, Wesley shut it quietly. My name's not Ryan, I'm Wesley Noland. I own this company. Dana leaned back slightly. I wasn't aware of your visit. Wasn't meant to be announced. I've been hearing concerning things about how this store handles hiring. Specifically, that candidates are being filtered out based on appearance. Dana didn't deny it. I'm trying to maintain a clean image. This neighborhood expects professionalism. What does that mean exactly? I'm not hiring anyone who looks like they just got out of a fight club. It's a family environment. Wesley's voice didn't rise, but it sharpened. We don't discriminate based on appearance. If someone's qualified, punctual, and respectful, they deserve a chance. Dana's arms crossed. I'm not going to risk losing customers because someone's covered in tattoos and looks like a street racer. Wesley stared at her. You just confirmed you're violating company policy and basic hiring law. Dana opened her mouth, but he cut her off. You're done here, effective immediately. You're firing me for keeping standards. I'm firing you for excluding qualified candidates based on looks, and for creating a hostile environment where your team is afraid to ask questions. I've already spoken with HR. You'll be escorted out today. He didn't wait for a response. He opened the door and walked back into the kitchen. The team had gone quiet. Wesley turned to the group. Dana is no longer with the company. I'll be staying here the rest of the week to support. We'll be reviewing all recent applications. If you felt unable to speak up about anything, now's the time. One of the kitchen workers, a tall teenager with a nervous expression, raised his hand slightly. She made me take off my religious pendant last week, said it wasn't store brand appropriate. Didn't want to lose my job. Wesley nodded once. That stops now. You wear it if it matters to you. He turned back to the register. Let's remake that pizza, then we start clean. That night, he called Carla. You were right, he said. I found what you warned me about. Thank you for speaking up. I wasn't sure you'd follow through. I will, every time. Back at store 12 the next day, Wesley arrived just before noon. The kitchen was buzzing, the crew focused but not tense. Carla was reviewing the inspections checklist with 2 new hires, both in training aprons. He stepped into the back to grab a bottle of water and found Lewis restocking the dry goods shelves. You all right? Wesley asked. Lewis looked up. Yeah, just pacing myself. You've been picking up a lot of slack. Lewis nodded. I don't mind it, but I'm starting to feel it. Wesley leaned against the wall. We've got 2 new hires starting full-time next week. I want to rotate you off the closing shifts for a while. Lewis hesitated. You don't have to do that. I can handle. I'm not doing it because you can't handle it. I'm doing it because I need you long-term, not running on fumes. Lewis smiled slightly. Thanks. Wesley nodded. Also, I'm putting your name in for the district mentorship program. You've got leadership instincts. The expression on Lewis's face shifted surprise, then something deeper. No pressure, Wesley added, but I see it. Later that afternoon, Jessie walked in during her break, holding a flyer. Someone from corporate dropped this off, she said. Looks like a company-wide listening tour. Wesley took the flyer. It was his assistant's doing he had asked for it, but she'd moved faster than expected. Across the top, bold print read, "We're listening, your voice, your store." He looked up at Jessie. You going? Depends, you going to be there? I will. She nodded, then yes, I'm going. The store buzzed with quiet confidence as the sun dipped below the roofline. The ovens hummed, the register beeped steadily, and the crew moved with purpose. Wesley took a seat near the back, not to observe, but to rest for a moment. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like he was putting out fires. He felt like he was building something. The following Monday, Wesley arrived at corporate headquarters earlier than usual. After 3 weeks rotating between store 12, 14, and 2 others showing signs of trouble, he knew what had to change. What shocked him most wasn't how bad things had gotten, it was how long it had gone unnoticed. He stepped into the main conference room just after 8. His assistant, Jordan, was already setting up the video call equipment. Half the district managers were attending in person, the others were dialed in remotely. On the glass wall behind her, someone had written in dry erase marker, "Listening tour, Phase 1. We've got 10 store leads on the call," Jordan said, glancing at her laptop. And Carla's joining from store 12. She said she'd step out during prep. Wesley nodded. Thanks, keep the call open for questions after the first round. By 8:30, the room was full. Most of the district managers looked alert, curious. A few, especially the one who had previously overseen store 12, looked anxious. Wesley stood at the head of the table. I'm not here to walk through numbers, he began. You already know them. What I want to talk about is what happens when leadership loses sight of the floor. No one moved. I went undercover because the reports I was getting didn't match what I was hearing from the ground. I saw a manager threaten to fire a mother for asking to switch a shift. I watched another reject qualified applicants because of how they looked. And I saw staff pushed to the edge, people who kept everything running while getting none of the credit. He paused, letting the weight of it settle. I made decisions based on reports that glossed over reality. That ends now. From this point forward, every store will submit weekly feedback not just from managers, but from staff. Anonymous, unfiltered, and reviewed directly by me and Jordan. One of the district leads raised a hand. What's the process if we see something concerning in those reports? You act, no delays. If it's a policy violation, you escalate it immediately. If it's a staffing issue, you fix it. And if it's leadership failure, we replace leadership. Another manager leaned forward. What about training? Some of our leads were promoted too fast. They're good workers, but they weren't ready. Wesley nodded. We're building a new leadership track. Carla from store 12 will help shape it. She stepped into a disaster and stabilized it in under 2 weeks. She's earned a seat at this table. The manager who had overseen store 12 cleared his throat. I want to be honest, he said. I didn't see what was happening in that store. Greg always hit his numbers. I didn't dig deeper. You're not the only one, Wesley said. That's why we changed the system, not just the people. After the meeting, Wesley returned to his office and pulled up the hiring queue for store 14. Since Dana's removal, applications had tripled. Jadon, a new hire from store 12, had referred 2 friends who'd already passed their interviews. Wesley approved both on the spot. At noon, he drove to store 12. He didn't need to be there. Strictly speaking, Carla had it under control, but he'd promised the team he'd stay involved. The smell of fresh dough hit him the moment he stepped inside. Carla was at the register, training a new team member on the POS system. Louis was restocking the to-go containers and double-checking the delivery logs. Wesley stepped into the back and washed his hands. "You're early," Carla said, joining him by the prep counter. "I figured I'd earn my slice today." She handed him a clean apron. "We've got 2 parties coming in for pickup around 1, big school order, and a construction site lunch run." "Got it, I'll take the ovens." They worked in sync. The team had more confidence now. Requests were clear, handoffs efficient. There were still rough edges, but nothing like the chaos from weeks ago. As the last of the school order was boxed and labeled, Jessie walked in from the front. "Deliveries here," she said. "That's the crew doing the sidewalk repairs down the street." "I'll run it," Wesley said, grabbing the hot bags. Outside, the work crew was gathered by a curb, orange vests bright under the afternoon sun. Wesley handed over the food, and one of the workers, an older man with a dust-covered ball cap, grinned. "You the manager?" "No," Wesley said, "just helping out." "Well, it's the best order we've gotten all week. Tell your kitchen thanks." Wesley nodded, then paused. "You guys order often?" "Not anymore. Last time we did, the old manager gave us attitude. Made us wait 30 minutes, then got the order wrong." Wesley looked back at the store. "Try us again next week." Back inside, he relayed the conversation to Carla. "We've got to follow up with past customers, not just hope they return," he said. "Let's print flyers with a discount code. Offer it to anyone who had a bad experience in the last few months." Carla thought for a moment. "We've got the old customer call logs. I'll pull the list. Jessie can help draft the message." "Perfect." That evening, Wesley stayed late, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He wiped down the prep surfaces while Louis closed the register. "You've got a good team here," Wesley said. "They just needed room to breathe," Louis replied. "Still thinking about the mentorship program?" Louis nodded. "Yeah, I'm in." Wesley reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, sliding it across the counter. "What's this?" Louis asked. "First leadership bonus. You've earned it." Louis opened the envelope, then looked back at Wesley. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Wesley said. "That's why it matters." Later, he walked through the store one last time. The chairs were up, the lights dimmed. Carla was finishing the schedule for the week ahead. Jessie was laughing quietly with one of the new hires, showing her how to set the alarm system. Wesley stepped outside and looked up at the sign above the store. Same logo, same chain. But it felt different now. Back at his car, he sat for a long moment before starting the engine. He thought about the first night he'd walked into this place undercover, how quickly the mask had slipped off the operation, how much pain had been hiding beneath the surface. He didn't feel guilt anymore, he felt responsibility. This wasn't about one store. It was about what kind of company he wanted to lead. And now finally he knew.